what I'll be willing to do. Be said that hasn't been said about Jesus? What can be done that hasn't been done in His name?
What can I say to express how I feel at this moment? This is a feeling that's never been felt quite the same.
Well, He loves me. That's a brand new story. He loves me, and that's a brand new song. He loves me, He loves me, He loves me, and I just can't keep from singing. And you ask me, do I need Him, or does a river need the water to get along? Was a life that didn't begin until Jesus. It only began the moment that He became real.
Now I've a joy that has taken me over completely. No one can know just how special that He makes me feel.
'Cause He loves me, and that's a brand new story. He loves me, and that's a brand new song. He loves me, He loves me, He loves me, and I just can't keep from singing. And you ask me, do I need Him, or does a river need the water to get along? He loves me, and that's a brand new story. He loves me, and that's a brand new song. He loves me, He loves me, He loves me, and I just can't keep from singing. And you ask me, do I need Him, or does a river need the water to get along? Does a river need the water to get along? Or does a river need the water to get along?
Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Sabbath to those online. I know many of you are watching. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for everybody here in the sanctuary who stayed. We are excited for this afternoon service. We are going to be blessed by Dr. Kimberly Knowlton. I'm sure Dr. Lloyd is going to give part of her testimony, and you all heard Dr. Ernie this morning. Before we begin, we will again like to welcome the Holy Spirit into this place. So let us stand for opening prayer. Gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you again for this Sabbath day, an opportunity to rest and commune with you. But not only an opportunity to do that, we have an opportunity now to be ministered to be encouraged, but also to hear what you've blessed our speakers with, so that we may live the most healthiest life we can, and that your temple can be used to praise you in our daily lives. We ask you to bless the words that will be said, bless the hearers, and may we be doers not only of this advice, but of your holy word. In Jesus' name we do pray. Amen. First, who's first? Dr. Ernie. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Tracy. And I think I'm still in the network. So I thought I selected it. Is it showing up? We can't live without the AV guys. They are critical. Well, good afternoon, everyone. One of the challenges about speaking in the afternoon is that everybody would have had lunch, and all your blood is now down here instead of up here. So I know it can be a challenge. I hated teaching. Thank you. I hated teaching classes after lunchtime because it was always a challenge to stay awake. But hopefully, and I want to keep this a little more informal. So if you have questions, you can feel free. There's not a lot of us here, and I know a lot of things are going. I heard there's a lot of activities happening, so maybe they'll watch it afterwards online. But feel free, if you have a question, you can just raise your hand, you can interrupt me, and we will have a Q&A at the end. So if you have like a really burning question, you can just, if you want to save it to the end, that's fine as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort of lead off, talk about the blue zones and what that is, because I know some people may not know what that is. Those of us from Loma Linda, we sort of automatically assume everybody knows what the blue zones is, but no, it doesn't. I find that people don't know, although since that Netflix show came out, I found that a lot more people know about the blue zones. I've been traveling, I travel a lot, and what's the first question that they usually ask when you meet somebody? Where are you from? So I will always say, I'm from Loma Linda, California, and invariably some people say, oh, wait, I just saw that on Netflix, and then I know what they're going to say. So that Netflix show has really helped to put Loma Linda and Adventism, if you've not watched it yet, Adventism on the map. And so being from Loma Linda, I often get asked a lot of times, talk about the blue zones, what it is. So let me ask before I go on, how many of you already know what the blue zones is, read the book, or seen the Netflix show? Raise your hand. Okay. Oh, wow, good. So more than most of you here. So I'm going to give, and it didn't really come out in the show as much. It was emphasized. So I'm going to tell you a little, I don't want to say dirty secret, but it is a secret somewhat about Loma Linda Blue Zone versus the other. So I'm going to tell you more about that. But I'm going to start off first. I always like to start off with this question. How old are you really? Like, how many of you feel older? No, let's go the other way first. How many of you feel younger than your biological age? How many of you feel younger than your birthday age? Oh, good. Look at that. Some of you here, good. Now, how many of you feel older than your actual age? Oh, wow, her hand went up fast. Okay. So, yeah, I guess for me, I feel younger in some ways, and then I feel older in other ways. So I'm sort of both. But, that's a question that people get asked a lot, think about. There is a thing that you can actually do, what we call your health age or your biological age, where you can go online and answer a bunch of questions, and it will show you what is your true age versus your birthday age. Does that make sense? So you might have done these questionnaires at a health fair or something, and it will tell you what is your actual age. So hopefully, your true body age, biological age is younger than your birthday age. Does that make sense? So you can find these online. But so that quest of trying to be younger, get younger, live longer, but not only live longer, but live better, right? Have a quality of life. Because what good is it to live to 80 or 90 or 100 if the last 20 years of your life you are in a wheelchair in a retirement home or in some center where you can't enjoy life, right? My mother-in-law, unfortunately, she had dementia and slowly was going downhill. She had to spend the last 5 or 6 years of her life in a lockdown unit because she would sometimes just get up and walk out of the house. And so she had to be in a special place, and when we would go visit her, she didn't talk. So we don't really even know if she even knew who we were. She would smile, but maybe because she was smiling because somebody was standing in front of her. We don't know. She never said anything hardly at all. So it's really sad. If you want to live longer, you want to live a high quality of life, right? A life that you can enjoy. So So that's what the Blue Zones is all about, is the secrets. And this came out actually over 10 years ago when Dan Buettner, there on the right, he was the National Geographic researcher that sort of brought Blue Zones to the forefront through National Geographic. So he's the one that really got this out there, wrote a lot of books and did a lot of presentations. And we had the fortune of meeting Dan in person. We've met him several times, every time he comes to California. And it was really the last time he came was when was that? When did we make 2021, right? 2021? He came in 2021, the spring or March, to film this Netflix show. So we were the first stop that he was doing it because things were still opening up from the pandemic. So he started, it was 2022. So 2022, he started in Loma Linda, and then he went to all the 5 Blue Zones after Loma Linda. And even in Loma Linda, we had to get COVID tested like every day because they couldn't risk the film crew getting sick, and then that would mess up their whole timeline. So we had to get tested every day before they filmed us if we were on that set. So that was the show. If you've seen it, great. If you haven't seen it, just go on Netflix or go to somebody's house that has Netflix. Look for that. You can just put in Blue Zones and it'll come up. And then Loma Linda is in episode 2. So if you want to see Loma Linda, we're in episode 2. And there's one of those pictures is you can see my mom playing pickleball on the courts. This is at Drayson Center, where at Loma Linda University, and he was filming her right on the court. And my mom said she was afraid of hitting him with a paddle because he was literally standing right in front of her while she's playing. And they recently, this year, they were nominated for 6 Emmy Awards, and they won 3 of them. So we can say now my mom is an Emmy Award-winning actress on a Netflix show. So, how many people can you say, I've met a Emmy Award-winning Netflix actor? So after sunset, she will give autographs. No, I'm just kidding. She, whenever we go in the Philippines, they had her signing jerseys and paddles and all. They were getting her autograph. They never asked me for my autograph, but I was on the Netflix show. But I was in the background. If you see a blurry orange shirt in the background of the pickleball course, that was me. And then in episode 4, Corey, Kim, my mom, and myself, we're on the intro of episode 4 for like 3 seconds. And we're walking along a dirt path, and you can see us right there. So that's our 3 seconds of claim to fame. But anyway, that was so the Blue Zones. Again, for those who don't know, or refresh your course, the Blue Zones represent these 5 areas or cities in the world where they found people lived longer than the average around in that area. And do you know why they were called Blue Zones? Anybody know? Because the original researchers on a map used the blue marker. And they circled it. That's the only reason it was called Blue Zones, because of a blue marker. Had they used a yellow marker, they would have been the yellow zones, which would be that sounds sort of weird now. But yeah, that was all it was. The researchers were using a blue marker to circle these places on the map. Okay? So what are these 5 places? Well, Okinawa is one of them in the southern part of Japan. We did not get to go visit Okinawa when we were there last month because it's pretty far, and we didn't have enough time. But Okinawa is there, and again, it's very tropical there in Okinawa. It's very similar to Hawaii. You guys are from Hawaii or been to Hawaii, so very similar to Hawaii. I have several friends who live and work down there. There's an American base there. So Okinawa is one of the Blue Zones. Although I will have to say this, and I heard this. I don't know. I don't think this is a secret. Well, maybe Anyway, Okinawa has become so westernized that it's almost like losing its status, so to speak. I mean, it's changed so much from when it was first picked as a Blue Zone. And in episode 4, you will actually see one of the quotes newest is Blue Zone 2.0. Does anybody remember what city, country that was in episode 4 that watched it? Singapore. So Singapore is now one of the newest city, country Blue Zones. And you'll see if you watch the episode, I'm not going to tell you here, you have to watch it now. You'll see why that is. I spent 3 months in Singapore back in 1986. So that was a long time ago, but even back then I could see some of the beginning signs of why it is now considered one of the newest Blue Zones. But Okinawa is still considered one of the OG Blue Zones, and it's island. The next one is Icaria. They're in Greece. And you'll notice something interesting about this. These places are all near water. They're like near coast, near water, and again, they talk about their active lifestyle, Drinking wine was one of the things that they did there a lot. That became one of the markers for a blue zone. Same with Sardinia. Sardinia there in Italy, again, near water, near the coast. Again, very active. Community is important. Family is important. So we'll talk about what are the common denominators in all these countries. I'm just sort of showing you where the countries are now. Nicoya, Nicoya, Costa Rica is the 4th place. And I've been to Nicoya. I was down there for some health meetings down there, so we got to visit Nicoya down there in Costa Rica. And again, a lot of similar attributes that make it a blue zone, and we'll talk about that more. There's Nicoya there. And then, of course, here you have the only place as part of the OG, the original blue zones, is Loma Linda, California. Now, if you watch the show, it's very interesting because in the show, Dan Buettner, who'd been to all these places, he comes to Loma Linda and he's like, what? Why is this a blue zone? It doesn't seem like a blue zone. It's not near water. We're about an hour away from the coast. Okay, we're not near water, and it just seems like another city in California, right? Fast food, all this stuff there. But he does talk about, but I'll tell you why Loma Linda got to become one of the blue zones, and it's not so much the reasons why, it's not because of the physical geographic reasons why the other 4 are blue zones. So this is Loma Linda in the wintertime when you can see the snow on the mountains. So it's that part of the year is nice. So it's a nice time there, and there's a lot of hills. There's it's active and all. But why is Loma Linda different than the other 4 blue zones? Okay, so we're going to talk about that. So again, there are commonalities among all 5 of these blue zones. That is where a lot of the health talks have come from to show, okay, what are these people doing that the rest of us can do to hopefully have a not only longer life, but a better quality of life. And it's because Loma Linda got on the Blue Zone map because of what we did at our School of Public Health with the studies called the Adventist Health Studies. Now I see Dr. Tracy nodding her head. How many of you have ever filled out any of those surveys that started way, way back? Some of you, good. Yeah, I did. When I talked about this in Canada, there were people in Canada who were doing the surveys. I know my mom and I, right? We've done the surveys when it first came out. I was still living in Michigan at the time. So we've done these surveys, and again, I'm not going to go through this in detail, but just to show you that the studies that started on the Adventist healthy lifestyle started back before I was even born. I was born in 1965, started way back then. You could see all these different studies. Many of them were funded by, the government, National Cancer Society, National Cancer, NIH, whatever, but they were going all the way back, and these are long-term studies looking at lifestyle and disease, okay? And so why are we Adventists so good to study? Why are we good test subjects? Why are we good guinea pigs, all right? If you know anything about research, you always have to think about what we call confounders, right? I may make an observation, but why is it that way? Is there another confounding factor that's making it that way, right? So you have to try to rule all these things out, and it's a very laborious statistical ways of doing that. But see, Adventists make a good test subject because most Adventists don't smoke, all right? Most don't drink alcohol, we're talking about. We have a range of dietary habits, which makes it very interesting. Most Adventists are physically active. Most Adventists, they're very active in church. So there's a lot of commonalities that we can rule out some of these, what we call confounders, because most Adventists do them, except for the nutrition, and I'll show a little bit about that here in a second. So that's why Adventists are really good test subjects to study, okay? And we found out, of course, in our studies, that Adventists live longer than the general population in North America, okay? And these are the 5 behaviors that sort of impact or sort of lead to why we live longer. Not smoking, eating a plant-based diet, eating nuts several times a week, regular exercise, maintaining a normal body weight. Okay, those are some of the factors that showed. And so also they found Adventists have better quality of life, and they tend to do better with mental health issues as we get older. Okay? Again, it's not 100%, but in general, we tend to do better in those kinds of things. And again, these are some of the characteristics that we found that make Adventists or allow us as Adventists to live longer. Okay? Low glycemic index means when you eat that food, it doesn't jack up your blood sugars very quickly, right? If you eat candy, your blood sugars are going to shoot up right away. So these foods tend to make the blood sugars in your blood, the sugar in your blood go up more slowly, more gradually. So beans, that soup, what was that soup that we had? It was like a lentil, spinach. It had lentil and spinach. That's a good low glycemic food because of the beans, okay? So that was the thing. And so Adventist Health Study 2 was the last recent study. And this is the study that really helped to put Loma Linda on the Blue Zone map, okay? 96,000 Adventists, of some of us right here, are part of that. That's North America, U.S. and Canada, okay? And you can see some of the other characteristics there, but it's a huge study. When you have a sample size that big, that's a really powerful study to have that many in your subject. Now, here's the thing about the diet. Most people assume, when they tell me, they assume that I'm a vegetarian, okay? That's the assumption of, you're Adventist? You must be vegetarian or vegan or whatever. I always confess. When I do nutrition talks, I always confess I follow Jesus' diet plan. He ate fish. So, because even though Jesus was not a Filipino, he ate fish. So I'm a Filipino. I love fish. And that's one of the things I have a hard time giving up, especially in Japan. I love the fish in Japan. I know this may not sound great, but I love sashimi. So sushi, sashimi. So we ate a lot of that. My mom is mostly vegan most of the time, but when she was in Japan, as a missionary, you do what they do, right? So, I'm going to say things about that. I better not say it here. Anyway, we ate a lot of fish while we were there. So I am in that yellow box there where it says pesco vegetarian. Okay? I eat fish. Now, I don't eat dairy because being Asian and dairy, we don't go good together. So I don't do dairy, but I do fish. Okay? And so you can see these different types of vegetarians all the way from a vegan, which would be the plant-based type person, right? And by the way, in case you have anybody, I'm sure you don't have this in your church, Dr. Tracy, but if you have any vegans in your church who act like you have to be a vegan to get to heaven, you could be a vegan and still be very unhealthy, right? Because refined sugar is vegan, right? Coffee is vegan, coffee bean. So you can eat a lot of not healthy foods and still be vegan, all right? So, but in general, plant-based, that's the healthier one, and you can see there from lacto-ovo, that's eggs and dairy. Pesky is fish, but I don't do the dairy. I do the egg columns. I do like eggs still as well, but, poultry. Then you have the semi-vegetarian, which means they do eat a little bit on occasion, meats and all. And then you have your full-on carnivore, okay? The full-on carnivore. Our dad was a full-on carnivore because he was a full-on Filipino. He made the best Filipino steak. I remember that. It was like nothing you could get at a steakhouse. And when Dad was making steak, I was like, it was so good with rice and all. But that's why he got a stroke, because he didn't exercise. He was a busy physician, and he ate like a typical Filipino. So he became a vegan after he had the stroke, because he could only eat what my mom made unless he drove somewhere, which sometimes he did, and he got in trouble for that. But he was a full-on vegan, full-on carnivore till he had a stroke, which is why we think they said, I learned this later, his stroke, he should have only lived 5 years. But after the stroke, he lived 18 years. He lived 18 years till he passed away because he changed his diet. My mom basically forced him to change his diet because she did all the cooking. She changed all of her cooking style to vegan. White rice? No. She uses like 5 different grains in her rice, things I'd never heard of before. Kamut and, spelt and, all these other grains in her rice. Not just brown rice. Other things. No more frying. No more fried egg rolls. How many like fried egg rolls? Okay, no more frying. She does now spring rolls, right? The white, stretchy, or you can dip it in the water and then you roll it up and it's not fried. So, she changed her eating. So, and then he exercised every day. Either riding his tricycle, doing some kind of exercise, because he had to do rehab, right, for his stroke. So if he had been doing that, maybe even some before the stroke, maybe he'd still be with us today, right, if he had been living that kind of lifestyle. So anyway, you can see Adventists here, about 51% are right at that middle line. Only about half the Adventists in the world are vegetarian. The rest are some form of, pesky or lacto-ovo or full-on carnivore. So it's not That's the myth that all Adventists are vegetarian. And I always confess that when I do talks. But I say I am a flexitarian. Okay, have you heard that term, flexitarian? I will eat vegetarian like I ate at Chili's when I first got here at the place. See, I did that on purpose so I could say this here, but I ate at Chili's for lunch, and I ordered their black bean burger, okay? So, that's what I had for lunch there. So I'm a flexitarian. If I'm given the choice of some kind of vegan or vegetarian option, I will usually take it. Unless there's fish there, then all cards are off, all bets are off. So, but I usually choose, and at home we typically will eat vegetarian, because my wife is vegan, my daughter's vegan, so we don't cook meat at home for the most part. So I'm a flexitarian. Right? My mom and my sister, they can tell you what they are. I'm not going to spoil it for you, but that's the one thing that's different among Adventists. So when you have an Adventist who doesn't smoke, doesn't drink, exercises, goes to church, gets enough sleep, has community, has all these things, except they have different diets, then you can see, how does the diet impact heart disease, diabetes, stroke? It's not because of the exercising or the non-smoking or the drinking. It's because of the differences in the diet. And guess which one overall still lives the longest among Adventists, among these different types of dietary status? Which one do you think is the best one? The green, plant-based. That's the best one. Although in one category, I think it's in heart disease, the one category that's better than the green is actually pesky, is the fish one. There was only one. But in general, the green is the more effective of the diet habits among Adventists. So even the carnivore Adventists, though, tend to do better than the general population. So that's the other good news about that. So that was just a little something about the dietary status. We already talked some about that. So in summary, Adventists, we do have a health advantage. Thanks to Ellen G. White, we do have a health advantage. We have lower of these NCDs that I talked about as far as these risk factors. And then the best one, of course, is the vegetarian. And even if you're still eating some meat, it's still better to eat lots of fruits, vegetables, legumes, nuts. That's still going to give you that kind of protective effect if you live and act like an Adventist, even if you're not an Adventist, okay? And that's the thing. It's open to everybody, okay? So these are things I already talked about. And that's the thing, is that you can do these things even if you don't live in Loma Linda. That's the secret that is different from the other 4 places. To get the benefits of like Icarius or Nagoya or Okinawa, you literally have to be living there. Okay? Who's going to move to Okinawa? Anybody want to move to Okinawa? I know she does. Because it's like Hawaii and it's in Japan. We were just talking about that at lunch because we came back and it was like the level of respect and courtesy and cleanliness and everything in Japan leaves the U.S. way behind. And I'd love to live there. And so it was so nice to live there. I came back, landed in LAX, went outside to the bus to take the shuttle to the train, and the bus driver was so rude. He left us there because we didn't have our right ticket, and he didn't even wait for us. He just took off. We had to wait for the next bus. I said, oh, that was welcome to America. Welcome back home. Rude bus driver. In Japan, they would have waited. In fact, they held the plane, right, Mom? Our plane was running an hour late to Japan to take the connection to Manila, and they held the plane an hour for us or whatever it was because that was the last flight to Manila. They didn't strand us there in Japan. It was ANA. We were on the ANA Airlines. They held the plane for us. They knew there was 8 of us coming from the States to make the transfer to Manila. I mean, anyway, don't get me started on the differences. So that's what I love about Japan. So you don't have to live in those countries like you do in Loma Linda or like you do there. Loma Linda, you can practice it anywhere because remember, that study was done on all Adventists and 96,000 Adventists, all in Canada and North America and in the States. So you could be living anywhere, and if you practice our lifestyle, you can get the benefits. There is nothing special about Loma Linda that says, oh, here is where it's the holy ground, you're going to live longer. No, there's nothing special about it. It's the lifestyle of the Adventist lifestyle that you can benefit from. And that's good news, right? So you can tell people you don't need to move to Loma Linda, but you can live like an Adventist anywhere in the world. And that's the message that we should really be sharing. So if you want to read more about that, you can go to this website. You can read about the Adventist Health Study and all that. And these are the different characteristics of the blue zones. So this is one way you can see it, sort of showing all the blue zones. I like this way here. You can see sort of the pyramid, that the blue zones, power of 9, they call it. Okay, move naturally, the right outlook, eat wisely, and then belonging. And we're going to talk about these real briefly because I want to give time for them as well as Q&A. But we're going to cover these and just touch on them real briefly because you could do a session on each of these things, right, for a whole session, all that. But I just wanted to give you sort of a snapshot. So moving naturally. Dan Buettner is very big about saying you don't have to go to a gym. You don't have to go to a gym to exercise, but you can do it anywhere. So just how can you incorporate more physical activity into your lifestyle? In Japan, we were doing a lot of what? Walking. In fact, we were walking so much, our Airbnb was a half a mile from the station. Then when you take the train, then you got to walk. And then, whatever. By the time we were done our 10 days in Japan, my mom was always telling my brother and I, Chris, can we get a taxi? Can we get a taxi? Where are the taxis? Why don't they have jeepneys here like they do in the Philippines? It's like, Mom, they don't need jeepneys because they walk. So I could throw her under the bus because she's going to talk after me, so she can say stuff that, she'll get her turn. So, but anyway, moving naturally is a hallmark. In all those other countries, they don't use a lot of technology. They do everything by hand, walking everywhere. Here in our country, we have to make an effort, right? Because we may not have, our lifestyle. Let me say this. What is this? What is this? What am I doing? If I was doing, this is way back before. I'm what? I'm opening a window. How many of you had to do this in a car? Yeah. How many of you had to do this? Yeah, nobody has to do that now, right? You just do this, right? How many of you have to do this when you're watching television? All right? How many of you use pliers when you're watching television? Anybody use pliers? Yes. You know what I'm talking about, right? Why would you use pliers on your TV? To turn the broken knob, right? The knob is broken, so you literally had to get out of your chair, get your pliers, change one of 4 channels, and then, we don't do that anymore. So technology is the reason why so many of us here in the States are physically inactive. Everything is a push button, served to you, whatever. So that there in these other countries, they may not have the technology. They have to walk everywhere. So moving naturally is one of the hallmarks of the blue zone. So you want to look in your life, and if you're using a pedometer or your watch or whatever, do you know how many steps you need to shoot for per day to show that you're at least getting the minimum amount of physical activity? How many? 10,000? Anybody else? Do I have 12? Oh, okay, 12. Do I have 15? Anybody going once? 15. Okay, 15. Well, the right answer is if you are under, if you are under 60 years old, you need to hit about 10,000. If you're 60 and over, you can actually, the latest research I saw was 8,000. So you can go a little bit lower and still be okay. Okay? So that's a guide you can use if you want to see, am I moving enough? Is that either 8 to 10,000 range. Okay? So moving naturally. Now, knowing your purpose, why are you here? Why do you get up in the morning? If you don't know that was one of the signs in the blue zone people, that they knew what they were doing. They knew why they were here. And unfortunately, I've talked to some patients and people that they don't really know why they're here, right? They say, I'm just here to work, and all. So you really need to find what is your purpose in life. For me, I love talking about exercise evangelism. I love talking about health. These are some pictures I did when we were in the Philippines. I taught the pickleball class there at the college, 120 students, from 10 to 4 in a gym that had no AC. But it was okay because I loved it, enjoyed it. They were all first-timers. I did a podcast there talking about burnout for the graduate student. And then the bottom picture was I was talking to over 100 physicians there that were learning about health coaching in the primary care system. So, I have a purpose, and so, no matter how busy or how tired I am, I'll go and talk. I'll go and teach, or I'll do whatever, because that's what I feel like God put me on this planet here for. So you need to know what your purpose in life is besides just making a paycheck or just taking up space. Okay, that's a common hallmark of the blue zones. Downshifting. Now, this is one where I sort of have trouble with, Because people said, man, you're always on the go, 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 go. And so that's true. So I'm trying to do better at this. But the nice thing is, what do we have every week that helps us to downshift? Sabbath. Okay? So unless you're preaching the sermon and doing the afternoon meeting, you can usually, and Dr. Tracy might know about that, right? For some people, the Sabbath is busier than the other days, right? So, but that's, it is what it is. But taking time for vacation or breaks, regular breaks, that's an important key. And, by the way, for me, guess what my downshifting time is? Pickleball. Oh, wow, that was a little slow. I thought you would guess. But for me, pickleball is like my little island of time. Little island. I play for 2 or 3 hours at a time. But it's my little island of time that, guess what I'm not looking at when I'm playing pickleball? I'm not looking at my phone. I'm not looking at email. I'm not thinking about anything. I'm just playing and focusing on the people there and the game and all that. So I have a little break from all the craziness of life. In fact, it's so isolated at one time. I don't know if my mom knows this. One time I was actually taking a class, pickleball class, and then my wife, Carrie, she showed up at the pickleball courts. Now, she never comes to the Drayson Center. Never, ever. Because she doesn't want her students seeing her working out and looking sweaty. She teaches school nerd. So she'll never go. So I was playing, and then I looked there, and she was calling my name. I said, why is she here? And she says, Ernie. So I came over, and she goes, why aren't you picking up your phone? I said, well, I'm on the court. My phone's over there. So she goes, well, check your phone. So I checked my phone, and there was like a gazillion messages on our WhatsApp group from my mom, from my sister, and all this. Guess what they were texting me about? Our dad had passed away. I didn't know. I was on the court playing. And so then my wife had to literally go down there physically and get me off the court. And then, of course, I stopped playing, and, we started looking at plans and all. So that for me, and I teach or play almost every day, that for me is my downshift. So even though it's very busy and all, it's like my oasis away from everything else. And I'll tell people, if you can't get me, I'm either in the bathroom, in the shower, sleeping, or on the pickleball courts. That's, in fact, I don't even have an Apple iWatch anymore, because before it used to ring, and I'd look at it. Now I just have a regular watch, and so it doesn't bother me until I get back off the court. So figure out what kind of way are you downshifting to take a break. Okay, 20% rule. This is for eating. That when you're eating, you should only eat about 80%. So if you feel like still a little bit hungry but not quite, that's probably a good time to stop. Okay. If you keep going and say, oh, I wanted seconds or thirds or fourths, then you go past that, pretty soon you're going to feel too full. So that's what they noticed, that a lot of people in the blue zone, they would just eat just under that and then stop. Okay? So that's 8%. Then, of course, eating plant-based. Even if you're not a full vegan, if you can do as much plant-based as you can, fruits, vegetables, nuts, legumes, those kinds of things, then you will have a much healthier diet, have a lot better with the different NCDs. Now, this is an interesting one, and I put a big purple, that's supposed to be an asterisk, but it doesn't look like one, but I put here wine at 5, okay? The 4 of the 5 blue zones, wine was part of that, and for the longest time, we would hear in the news, moderate wine, right? A little bit of wine is good for your health, right? Have you heard that? Like a glass or two of wine, and they would say, but if you don't drink, don't start, but that was often said, and that's part of the blue zone thing, but Adventists, of course, are the ones that sort of go against that. However, now, you're seeing more and more things, and I was trying to look for U.S., but I found this in Canada, that they are really doing a big promotion now, because some of the latest research, and I know Dr. Tracy could talk to you, maybe you've talked to this about this already, but alcohol drinking, they found that the research that was supporting this, there was a lot of problems that they found out, but they basically showed a false positive factor from drinking a little wine. So now it's straight linear. The less wine to zero wine or alcohol you drink, the better. That's the bottom line. There is no small amount of wine that is good for you, even though that's what we've been told for years and decades. So that's why I put that asterisk there, and I put this in there that, if you don't drink, don't start. And if you do drink, try to get it down to as little as possible, to 0, if you can. All right? Family first. That's a big one, right? All the blue zones had that characteristic of family was important, family first, taking time, visiting, that kind of thing. So that's a very important blue zone. And then belonging. belonging to something, whether you're belonging to a church group, a singing group, a Bible study group, some club, a pickleball club, whatever. But being part of something was another hallmark of the Blue Zone people. So that, you remember I talked about social connectedness and loneliness? So a lot of people are suffering from health because they aren't part of a group. They aren't connected. So that's why, I was saying about pickleball, you can invite them and then start to get to know them and bring them in. So belonging is a key factor. And then connected to that is being in the right tribe. Who do you pick? Now, you can't pick your family, right? You're sort of stuck with them for the most part, but you can pick your friends. So who do you hang around with? Because there was a study done out of Stanford, and they showed that, and I still find this hard to believe, but they showed that the research, they came out with a book called Connectedness. They said up to 6 degrees impacts your health. And I was like, 6 degrees? Like a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend. I said, 6 degrees? I mean, that's quite a ways away from me. I'm not a Stanford researcher, but that's what they said. So basically, your connections, your network of friends impacts your health. So choose your friends wisely, right? If you can. But that was a hallmark of the Blue Zone people. So this is Dan Buettner. He said the most meaningful piece of advice is to tell patients to make friends. So there's, choosing your friends with people who eat a plant-based diet. That's sort of his summary. Healthy behaviors are contagious. All right. So I had a friend once. A patient. Oh, he was a friend, but a patient who was smoking, and we were talking, and he was having a hard time really quitting. And so I was just asking him questions and all, and it come to find out, on Friday night, he hung out with a group of friends. They would get together at somebody's house. They were all smokers, and they'd hang out. So in his mind, he was thinking, if I quit smoking, then I can't hang out with my friends. So that was important to him, and I get that. So I was asking, I said, well, have you talked to them about that? And he said, no, I haven't brought it up. I don't know what they're going to say. I said, well, maybe ask them about it or just bring it up. Just broach the subject. So the next time I saw him, I asked him, hey, did you talk to your friends? He goes, yeah, I did. I said, well, what happened? And he said, yeah, half of them want to quit too. I'm like, well, great. So then he was able to quit. I mean, he was able to quit, and he knew he wasn't going to be ostracized or kicked out, and they made accommodations for him and all this kind of thing. They didn't smoke in the house when he was there. I mean, stuff like that. So anyway, it's healthy behaviors are contagious, and a lot of people want to do the right thing, but sometimes they're afraid to because it might mess up their friendship or their network or something. So here's again the Blue Zones, the power of 8. Those are the 8 things. And by the way, Dr. Tracy, I forgot to say this morning. If anybody wants the PowerPoint, because if they want any of that information, or they want this one, just email me. I can send it to you. I can just through what we transfer or something. So these are the Blue Zones, power of 9. This is I like this text here, Psalm 92, 14 to 15. They will still bear fruit in their old age. They will stay fresh and green, proclaiming the Lord is upright. He is my rock, and there is no wickedness in him. Okay? And then the final word here, blessed are those who keep my ways, for by me your days will be multiplied, and your years of life will be added to you. So if we live the way God created us, being with people, eating right, exercising, moving, having a purpose. God has given each one of us a purpose, right? It's not just to earn some money and fill a bank account, right? It's for missionaries. It's for soldiers for him. We talked about this morning. If you have a purpose, all those 9 things, then you will have years added to your life. And on that note, there's my email. I didn't put that this morning either, but she has it. Leslie has it. And by the way, when we were in the Philippines, do you know what fruit that is right there? I'm holding, or my mom's holding? Dragon fruit. Very good. I had never had dragon fruit before. Then every day I was eating dragon fruit almost. I mean, I love dragon fruit. I don't know. I haven't looked in Loma Linda if we have it here or there, but do we have dragon fruit there? I've never had it there, but I love it now. And then, do you see the fruit there at the bottom? No, rambutan. Close. That's rambutan. Yeah, it's like lychee in the middle. It's white, but you peel it off, and so it's very, very good. So yeah, I can't wait to go to heaven because on the tree of life, do you know what is on the tree of life? Very good. Oh, who said that? That's right. 12 varieties of mango are on the tree of life. She gets an A. That's what I always say on the tree of life at mangoes, and we ate mangoes in the Philippines, of course. So anyway, on that note, I'm going to turn it over to my mom. She's going to talk a little more of her personal testimony about the Blue Zones, how she applied it. If you want to ask questions later about her Netflix episode, you can, but I'm going to turn it over to her. And then my sister, Dr. Knowlton, will speak after that. So.
Okay, before go ahead, Mom, you can come up. Before she starts, I want to do something really quickly. Ernie and I, we were able to do these exercise breaks when we were having conferences at Loma Linda. So what I want everyone to do is just stand up, because I can see some of you are just kind of slouching, being really relaxed. So just stand up, everybody, and I want you to go ahead and put your arms above your head. You have to stretch. Reach for the sky, stretch really high, okay? While you're doing that, trees are gently waving, you know that song? You do the same thing, side to side. Trees are gently waving, all right? Now what I want you to do is put your hands behind your back. This is good for posture. Stand up straight, look up. Can you feel it? Pulling on the frontier of your shoulders. If you can even touch your hands together, that's good. Okay, you can feel that? Okay, another one. Just go ahead and put your hands down to your side and slide your hand down your leg. Make sure your shoulders are still facing forward. You don't have to twist. You can feel it on your side, right? Other side, hands down and slide your leg down. Still face forward, shoulders facing forward. I'm also a physical therapist, and I see a lot of postural things in people, and it's like, yes, we need to make sure we address that. But anyway, go ahead, and what I want you to do now, sit down, but just get ready, you're going to stand up again. We're going to do this 5 times. Sit down, and then stand up. Stand up, okay? Sit down, and then stand up. Another time, down and up. If you're able, another time, down and up. One more time, down and up. One thing about exercise is that we want you to start where you need to start. You don't have to do what everyone else is doing. Okay? We're going to try to meet you where you're at. So if you can't stand up and sit down, you can just do one of that, or even just go part of the way up. There's all kinds of things that you can do when you exercise. So, all right, now I'll have my mom come forward. Go ahead and sit down. Yes?
For those of you online, I need you to be digital disciples. I need you to be Android and Apple apostles. I need you to be electronic evangelists. Send this link to someone you know who you wanted to be, if you wanted to be here and you can't. We appreciate you for joining us online, but spread the word. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. First off, I want to thank the church for preparing a very healthy, tasty food this afternoon, for the lunch. If you eat that every day, I guarantee you'll feel better. I also want to, if you were here about 2:20 this afternoon, you would have heard a testimony. And I was listening, and then at the end of the testimonial, I learned that was my testimony. I was listening to. So they were running it, and that was from 2021, when I attended a meeting, a conference actually for 10 days. We call immersion program in Berrien Springs, Michigan, and that was a turning point for me to turn from just a vegetarian to a plant-based vegetarian. I'll tell you why. Because I think maybe the Adventist food company might be mad with me, but this is your choice. If you want to continue, and that's fine. But I discovered the difference was the vegetarian food that we are producing are highly processed, and they have additives. chemical additives, seasonings, different kinds of things. And so they're vegetarian, but they're, if you can call it, quote, contaminated. Okay? So, because when I attended the immersion program, they took our blood samples, and my CRP, which is an index of inflammation in your body, was so high that it was printed in red. And I'm thinking, it was 9. 9 is very high for CRP. And I thought, this is not right. What? I did not feel any pain. My heart was okay. I was not sick. I have not been hospitalized. And so I talked to Dr. Kelly, who was the director of that program, and said, just wait at the end till the end of the program. So on the 8th day, they took our blood samples again, and it registered 0.6. That's lower than 1. Okay, so from 9 to 0.6. What made the difference? While we were there, we were served 2 meals. They were cooking it. We had a special dietitian that cooked from fresh. Even the corn chips were from, she would read all the ingredients, or they would make it themselves. Everything was handmade, okay? So, when I would go home, I would not eat anymore. I would go to bed because we had to be back at the session at 7 o'clock in the morning. And we were there for 12 hours. We did not do much exercise, and so it was mainly change of diet. And that is why at the end of the session, it was 0.6. And I talked with the doctor again and said, what mattered? What did we do here? He said, that's the power of the change of the diet. So yes, exercise is good, and that will complement that will build up your strength. Everything is like the other things that we will discuss with you here that consist of the Blue Zone. But the diet is very important. That's the big building block to give us the strength and give us the restoration, give us the healing of our body. So after that, I thought, okay, I am going to change my diet. So I cleaned up my cupboard. I threw all the things that I did not like. Somebody came in and viewed my cupboard and said, this is like E.G. White cupboard. So, okay. So I have a E.G. White cupboard now. Once in a while, I maybe get some friends that might need that or might cook that, and potlucks, that's okay. Do not say, no, this is not good. That's okay. You can even partake of it, if you don't eat it every day. Okay? So, today, I just want to let you know that what I did before. Who of you have been born before 1938? Nobody? So I'm the oldest here. Okay? I was born May 1938. Okay? And I finished my medical training in the Philippines, moved over to the United States as soon as I got married, and had 4 beautiful children. And I'm very glad that they are with me here today to help me with what we're doing or support CAST for me. Then my husband was a surgeon, and so both of us worked, and we had an urgent care clinic. And the story of how we progressed from our practice is another miracle story. As I was experiencing different chapters of my life, my guiding text is found in Proverbs 3:5. So if you can memorize that. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. It did not say part of your heart, okay? With all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding. Because how much understanding do we have? Compared to God? Nada. Okay. In all your ways. How much? Sometimes, yes, sometimes our ways look very good to us. And we say, let me try it my way, right? Or I'll do it my way. No. God said, in all your ways, acknowledge Him. acknowledge him. And what will he do? He shall direct your path. That's all. But he is very, he required all of this. All your heart, in all your ways, not your ways. Okay. The burning question that is always presented to me when I visit, when I'm requested to say my testimony is, how did you get involved with the Blue Zone? You live in Michigan. Blue Zone started in Loma Linda. And how did it happen? Well, a friend of Mr. Butner, you know Mr. Butner already from his presentation, contacted Ernie, and Ernie said, Mom, they want you to, if you can come to California, to be interviewed for Blue Zone. I said, what's Blue Zone? See, I did not know Blue Zone before. So I said, can you come over? You know, any invitation for me to come to California, I accept, because then that's a reason for me to visit my children. So I said, sure, okay, I'll go there. Very simple enough, you know, that they will interview me and probably I will be able to answer the questions, okay? And did not think twice and said, okay, I'll go. And it was an exciting thing. So when they came, they used my daughter and Corey's house for this. So it took 3 days to film, okay? The first day, they wanted me to demo food, okay? So I demoed 2 recipes that I love. And then the second day, I think that day we had worship also in the evening. We had worship, Corey led in the study of the Bible, and we had singing. And they told us, wow, you're singing. How long did you practice that song? Practice? No, we do this when we have worship every day, you know? So no, we did not practice. Wow, I said, that sounded beautiful. So the next day, we had a pickleball. They went to the pickleball courts and filmed us playing pickleball, and I accidentally hit Mr. Butner. No, he returned the favor. He hit me back. I think not intentionally, but so touche, you know, touche. So, and then the third day, Sabbath, we had a potluck in the afternoon at Ernest's friend's house, who invited me to for the Blue Zone there. And we invited all the centenarians, all the other seniors. And you know, I was the youngest. And Dan said, hey, you're the baby of the group. I said, oh, wow, I'm so proud of it, you know. 90s, 100, all of them. It was a joy to see them active and healthy. And then later, and Ernie described this, we took a walk and they took pictures of, that's family session, togetherness at the end of Sabbath. Now, during this filming, and during the viewing of this, I noticed something. At first, when I viewed the Netflix presentation of this episode, I had a lot of critique on my part. And I thought, oh, I would have done this way. I would have said it this way. But that was because I was focusing on myself, okay? Looking at the film. After a few days, I reviewed the film and I looked at the purpose, the substance of the film, and how it was made. And my view of the film changed. And these are my observations. Number one, Mr. Butner described the SDAs, how we keep our Sabbath. He said, from sunset to sunset. I mean, who in the world, not an Adventist, preaching our doctrine out there in a very, yes, go ahead and clap. Yes, who will give out our message to them in a very non-threatening way. If you invite people here, they'll say, oh, that's an Adventist church. I'm not going to go there. But this one, Mr. Butner is preaching our Sabbath truth to others in a very non-threatening way. And he said and that is why he said, these people are so happy. They are so contented. They look like they don't have any problems in their lives. And they are together. They're together. They're worshiping together as families, as a community. And I thought, hey, without spending a cent, without asking the conference to spend this, somebody is, yes, preaching our gospel. Amen. Okay. Number 2, I have 6, and I'll be done right after that. Okay, number 2, Blue Zone emphasizes a vegetarian diet. But the SDA, some of us have gone one step further by recommending a plant-based diet. For the reason that I told you, that some of our vegetarian diets are contaminated with chemicals and highly processed. And I follow that as much as I can, except when we go home to the Philippines, I love fish too. Hey, there's a recent, I don't know if you're aware of this, there's a recent study I read from the review that now they are finding out that the pesco vegetarian diet results in a longer living subscriber to that kind of diet. So look for it, pesco vegetarian. That means fish. And the only reason for not eating fish is it is so contaminated that it is very dangerous. So you have to choose the fish that tells you that, this is not contaminated. So, okay, we have to be careful with that. Okay, number 3 is the community involvement along the line of volunteerism. Highly recommended this because the recipient gets blessed, but the doer is more blessed. More blessed. I make it a point to do volunteer at Andrews, but as soon as I got retired, I got 2 invitations to volunteer. I live in a campus of Andrews University, and I think because we have been there for more than 30 years, I know everybody. And I think everybody knows me. So right away, when they learned I was retired, said, "Can you volunteer for this? Can you volunteer?" Sure. Okay. So I found myself after a while, my job was getting more busy than I was when I was in practice, okay? But I kept a volunteer job. I like to volunteer at Howard Concert Hall, Howard Performing Arts, okay? And all year round, they have concerts there. And I usher. I like it. We have a uniform, we have our tag, But when I usher, it takes me so long to usher them because these are all my friends. We hug and we talk. And so before I find them a seat, we have talked already. Last 2 weeks ago, I was ushering, and there was a couple. And it was a homecoming alumni gala presentation. So the whole Performing Arts Center was full. Standing room only, and I was assigned at the balcony. No seats, no vacant seats. So this couple came in, and I was trying to find a seat for them, but I could not find any. So I said, out there are some empty seats. So they went forward on the side. When they went forward, they saw that there was a cordon there, and they could not go inside that area. So they stood there only against the wall because the concert was starting. And I was eyeing them, and I said, no, this is not right. So I kept an eye on things, and when somebody came out of their seats, I went there right away and said, I have seats for you. So they came slowly, and I put them in their seat, and they looked at me like, thank you so much. I like that job. I love my job. So volunteerism is important to the recipient and to the one that's volunteering. So if you're my age, volunteer, okay? Number 4, this message is going worldwide. You know why? Because everybody, all those countries, the people there will be looking at their picture on the Netflix. Icaria, Japan, all of this. They will be looking at that, and then they will be telling others to look at that, and the others will tell others and others, and so on and on. And so this is going to go worldwide fast, okay? And what did Jesus say? Go teach, go and into all the world. Okay, into all the world. Then I will come. Okay, number 5. The documentary will be shown over and over again because it's already recorded. Okay? as it is available anytime. And every time somebody mentions it to me, oh, I saw you at Netflix. Oh, this. Yes, see it again and tell your friends. So they go from mouth to mouth. Now, it has snowballed. People or producers that were watching this came to note about Blue Zone. And so that was at the end of it. What is that station from the TV station that came? Is that LT? I have here LTKA TV from Los Angeles, from LA. Yes. Okay, KTLA TV came, asked Kim if they could interview me. So they came and they interviewed me and they took films of pictures while we were playing pickleball. While they were there, LA Times tagged along and started to interview me on the side also. Okay, so this is snowballing. They're learning different, and this has been shown. And then, while I was in LA, while I was in Loma Linda, after this interview, about 2 weeks after, somebody called me from Benton Harbor, which is the town next to Berrien Springs, and said, "Hey, you're on the newspaper." What do you mean newspaper? I have never been interviewed there. I have never had anybody approach me there to talk to me. No, you're in the newspaper. You're playing pickleball with your son. Sure enough, the news from the LA Times got to Benton Harbor, patched there, and appeared in our local newspaper. So it's traveling. This is how good news is. We have the good news. We have the health good news, and it's traveling. Okay, now, I don't want to, okay, I am sure it was a question. Whenever they interview me, I also mention to them that we are mindful of our health because it is a gift from God who created us. When Dan Buettner was interviewing me, I thought he was going to ask me, okay, what vitamins do you find in this food? What is the nutritional value of this food? I was ready for those, okay? No, he asked me, are you afraid to die? Wow. So I talked to him about that, and they were filming it. The problem with this is they don't show it if they don't like the content of that, right? So it was not in the film, actually, in the show. But I know that Dan Buettner is seeking. The Lord knows that, okay? That is why he gave him the opportunity to be able to be part of this Blue Zone, okay? He even asked me, why do you believe in the Bible? You don't know who wrote that. You don't know all these people. I said, have you had surgery? You know those people that were operating on you? They were reading books whose author they never met. So why did you trust them? The same thing. Why do we trust the Bible? Because we found it profitable for our lives, okay? But I was praying all the time we were talking about this. But now, because I keep telling them that we are created by God, I made sure that was the answer. One of the people that was interviewing me said, now then, how do you become an Adventist? Now I have to lay out how to become an Adventist to him, okay? So maybe that was not a serious question, but the Holy Spirit can work with these people who are seemingly not interested, but within them, they're really looking for some truth. Let me remind you, Isaiah 43:1, but now thus says the Lord who created you. Fear not, for I have redeemed you. I have called you by your name. We have to tell the people that we are created by God. They thought we just sprang out like by chance. No, we have been created by God. Now, when we know that we have been created by God, we find our identity. Speaking of identity, what comes to mind? People now, especially young people, are confused about their identity. The devil, I read this from one of the a publication, and it's not an Adventist publication. The devil is trying hard to obliterate our identity, confusing us with our sexual orientation and who we are. Do not ever forget that we are created in the image of God and given important, definite functions for the benefit of mankind and for His glory alone. Okay. Before I came here during the summer, a part of the snowball effect, Tempo Nuevo TV team from Brazil came to the U.S. and a side trip to Andrews University. And again, I think Ernie called me and said, Mom, they want an interview with you. This is from Brazil. So I said, sure. Where are they? Oh, they will go there at Andrews University. Okay, so we made an appointment, and they came over and filmed me in my home. Food demo, and the second day we played pickleball. They took some footage of my playing pickleball with my group there. And then on the third day, I brought them to the wellness center, and we are blessed to have a wellness center right very close to my house. And they filmed me doing exercise, because if I have time, I do strengthening exercises like 2 to 3 days a week, and then play pickleball 3 days a week. How many days am I out there? 6 days. Okay. I rest on Sabbath, right? Okay. So busy. And if you can have that kind of program, that's good. Okay. Now, why do I like pickleball? Okay. Pickleball is very inclusive. We play with people from 10 years old to 90 years old. So those of you here who are younger than I am, but older than 50 years old, you can try it. Very, very addictive, okay? Also, very good social interaction. We shout, we laugh, we just loud in the court. I like that. and mental exercise. Okay, mental exercise, you have to have strategy, alertness, if you do not want to be pummeled or hit, or okay, or if you want to win, okay? So it's also for physical exercise. You keep moving, not always running, but moving. Your arms, your legs, your head, because you might get hit, so you get your head from left to right, okay? So that is good. Now, this is no time to take credit for myself. Okay, this is the story I want to tell you because of God's goodness and His grace. Okay, this is not me. Okay, Dan Buettner was used by God, and he took a few people or some people to get involved in the process. Of course, we have our health message, as you have heard, our research studies. God now has provided a worldwide vehicle to partner with. And because of this, we can go to places and tell you about Blue Zone, but we're actually telling people about our own health message, right? E.G. White, in her writing, says, in the last days, there will be a restriction of the preaching of the gospel. Have you read that? Even banned from preaching the gospel, mostly by ministers, pastors. Now, what is going to be out there? Our health message is going to make a entering wedge to different places. This is the one that God will use for an entering wedge to go, so that we can fulfill that command to us. It's a command. Go therefore, what? And teach all nations to observe all things. I will be with you always until the end of the world. Okay, now for closing, I'd like to tell a little bit of, when people see me, they say, oh, you're a star. I used to, no, I'm just a little cog in the big, big wheel, that God is using. But come to think of it, yes, I can be a star for Christ. When you have a very difficult case in court, they call for a star witness. Why a star witness? Because the star witness is believable. They tell the truth. We are all star witnesses for Christ. Okay? We don't have to be in front of TV. We don't have to be interviewed. We are all representing Christ in any way, in our speech, in our actions, in how we act. Okay? Because and maybe you are thinking, what does God want me to do? What is my future? I asked that right after I retired. And God showed me, God led me, and God is still with me, and I know He's with all of you. Because in Jeremiah 29:11, what is His promise there? For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to hurt you, plans to give you a future and hope. And the last promise that I cannot forget, I always have this in my mind, Jeremiah 33:3. Call to me, and I will answer you, and show you great and mighty things which you do not know. Look forward to God reveal to you something about you which you do not know. God bless.
Well, well, well. Well, you look at that. My mom and my brother gave me 5 minutes. So we're going to go through this. I want you to all have time for Q&A. You should ask us questions. Think of them right now. Ask us questions. I have 5 minutes. I'm going to get going. So, all right. What I want to talk to you about today, basically, is Loma Linda is a blue zone, as you've heard today. But what I want to tell you is the blue zone has all these different things that Ernie was talking about as far as exercise and all that. But Drayson Center is part of Loma Linda University, and I just became the director of that facility a couple years ago. And it's a wonderful facility. It has a lot of things going for it, but when I got there, they still weren't doing things that were in the wellness category too much. They were really focused on recreation. Okay, on recreation. So when I got there, I said, you know what? We should be at the forefront. We shouldn't be behind everybody. We should be the ones spreading the gospel, spreading the news about exercise, wellness, the blue zone, and all that. But we have not been. So I just want to tell you what we've started doing at the Drayson Center, but also for you here in this church. As far as an outreach, you heard Ernie talk about that this morning. This church could definitely be an outreach to try to bring people in, teach them about the health message. I want to show you what we're doing, and then you can see how you can do that here, okay? So first of all, some of my credentials here as far as being the director here, I was also the former chair at La Sierra University for the Health and Exercise Science Department, and I got my physical therapy degree at Andrews University, so you all got a little taste of that when you're doing some of the stretching and the exercising. I remember when we had a vegetarian conference at Loma Linda University, Ernie and I were supposed to be doing these exercise breaks. We had Ted Wilson sitting there, Dr. Hart sitting there, the provost, everyone, and they were doing it all. We did more. We did marching in place. We did other things, and we did it for like 10 minutes or something like that, right, Ernie? And it was really interesting to see all these presidents up here doing the same thing. They know how important health is. But my goal for the Drayson Center was to increase the programming. I wanted to start wellness classes, do workshops, individual consultation for our members, the community. We wanted to even utilize some space to make a whole new wellness wing. So here are my managers. I have 6 managers. You can see Richard Weissong there on the right. I know Yvonne knows him. And then we have different managers for the different areas of the Drayson Center. So we work together quite well because we have about, let's say, 2,000 or more people come through that facility every day, up to 2,000 or more. In the summer, it is crazy. What we wanted to implement the different dimensions of wellness, 4 in particular: spiritual wellness, emotional wellness, physical wellness, and social wellness. Now, there is one thing about the blue zones. When they did some more research, what do you think was the number one thing that actually helped to increase longevity? Social. It's not physical and it's not nutrition. You think, oh, if they exercise enough or if they ate enough. No, it is the social aspect. So there's a lot of things that we try to implement in the facility to make people come together. Not necessarily work out alone, but we try to do classes. We try to do things that, like, I will show you what we've done with the pickleball courts. It's pretty amazing. But we've done so many things where now we have, 20 people, 30, 40, 50, 100. We have classes with groups. We try to fulfill that social aspect. We have different wellness programs. I'm going to kind of move through some of this. We have independent contractors that come in and also give services. We have massage there because it's a very good stress relieving thing to participate in. We have other health wellness professionals as far as consults, health and wellness coaching, different health classes, nutrition classes. And then, of course, we're looking into some psychological counseling as far as behavior change. Why don't you want to exercise? That's a very good question. And what keeps you from keeping that going, okay? We can get everyone exercising for about a month. What happens after that? Yes, it just goes down. Why? So we have to figure out how to do that. We do that with kids, adults. We're trying to get that program going also. One thing we are very, very blessed with is we are at a university. We have the School of Allied Health. We have the School of Public Health, the School of Medicine, School of Dentistry, all these different schools, and they need to do practicums, internships. They need to have some kind of volunteer work. When I got there, I started making contracts with all these different schools. Now we've got students coming down, doing things, and getting experiential, practice with their degree. So that's really great. We're trying to actually get this ergonomic program starting with the DPT, physical therapy, OT students for postural health. How many of you sit at your desk all day long? Quite a bit of the time. You're sitting there quite a bit. And they have pain in their neck, pain in their back. So we're trying to get them so they can be assessed, come to the Drayson Center, and actually have the proper exercise program so they don't have that pain. Okay? So we're doing all these things. Now, one thing you all can do here, which I've started over there, is starting to collaborate with different businesses, different, let's say, offices, clinics, that sort of thing, as far as, using their expertise to come over and help you. So we have collaborated with the CHP, which is the Center for Health Promotion on campus, Dr. April Wilson. We're using their preventive medicine students to come over. They can conduct consults. They even teach classes. We're looking at getting them to do their medical visits. They have to do it outside of the Drayson Center, but they can come in and get the education at the Drayson Center. So we're working on that. But here, you can also do the same thing. What are your resources in this area? What are some, let's say, clinics that you can work with? Maybe gyms you can work with? How about independent professionals that can teach here? I know there are some churches, they're holding like an aerobics class in one of the rooms. Now, that place where we had lunch, you can clear those tables out, and once a week, twice a week, whatever you want, get someone who can teach. I do know there are some personal trainers that people are related to that could probably come and teach here. So there's all kinds of things. One thing we started was executive assessments. We went out to some of the big businesses in the area. There's a water business, like they do water treatment and that sort of thing, and we get their executives to come in, and they do a full day of assessments. They do a physician eval for an hour. They do their labs in the morning, and then they come to Drayson Center. So look at this. How many of you would like to do this? We do a physical assessment, then they do a life consult, which Ernie actually did our latest one, and then they do this in-body, which is basically a machine you stand on, electrical current goes through your system, and it just tells you your body composition. How much fat do you have? How much muscle? How much water do you have in your system or in your body? And then they do a consult on that. And then they get a massage for an hour and a half. It's really nice. They love that. And then they do stretch care. I'm going to show you a picture. Ernie looks like he is in a torture chamber, but it's a personal trainer that will actually stretch you out for 30 minutes, and it's really good. They actually feel better afterwards. Then we have a multi-sport simulator, It's like a golf simulator, but it also has other sports, and they get to relax and play in there for a while, for 30 minutes. And then they have a catered vegan lunch brought to them. After that, they go back to the physician, and then he wraps it up. And then they have a follow-up a few days later. So this is something we're offering executives in the area. We have an insurance company that I think hopefully will come and take advantage of that, but it's something that we're doing, and we are very thankful for it. We also have grant and research funding. Like Ernie was telling you about some students who are doing all kinds of research. They come down to the Drayson Center. Now that's something that really hasn't been done as much, but since I'm there and I've done quite a number of research projects with students in the graduate programs, they are now coming down to do that, which is good. Now also, we have DC, Drayson Center employees that are also personal trainers that develop programs. They're all students in school, a lot of them. And they also do the stretch care with the individual sessions. But here, think about who you have and who you could utilize here to do things like that here, okay? How can you do that? Health assessments. Can you do something like maybe do a health assessment on a Sunday morning or even like a Saturday afternoon, just talking about health, okay, bringing people in, like maybe taking their blood pressure, talking about nutrition, different things. Who here can you have do those kind of tasks? Also, space. When I was talking about space earlier, these are the different spaces in Drayson Center that we used to do different activities. But here, you have different classrooms. I see that one bigger area that you could possibly hold even a class in your parking lot. Did I hear this morning that it was going to be resurfaced or something? Well, you know what you could put in that parking lot. I was like, there you go. You got space right there. As far as new activities and classes and sports, these are the number of things that we started doing at the Drayson Center that are brand new. We just resurfaced pickleball courts, put 4 brand new ones in, permanent ones. I think we have 26 courts now at the Drayson Center, all resurfaced as of, well, in a couple of weeks they'll be finished. But Ernie can attest, we get about 120, 130 students just crammed in there, and they're all waiting to play. Very social thing. I've met so many students. I've met people from Las Vegas that travel here because they have ill parents nearby, and they take care of them, but they come down and play. And it's just very interesting, the different stories that my husband and I have actually, witnessed. We talk to them and we hear their stories, and it's very interesting. Like Ernie said, you have to discover their story before you can move on. And that's one thing that we can do at the Drayson Center. So yes, we have the multi-sport simulator, we have stretch care, C3 classes, swimming classes. We just replastered the pool. And so it's something that we're doing now, adding private lessons. Here's our courts. As you can tell, you can see we all wear purple. It's my favorite color. It's Leslie's favorite color. It's my mom's favorite color. The kitchens on the pickleball courts are purple. I got to leave that little legacy there. And here is our multi-sport simulator. This is what it looks like. You can do all different sports plus golf. So it's in one of the racquetball courts. Unfortunately, racquetball is not as big as it used to be. We had 5, so we turned 1 into this. So that's that one. And then, let me see. The other one into this. This is called a C3 workout class. There's different stations, and there's a timer on the wall. You can't see it, but they're all in different stations, 45 seconds, and they just rotate. It's a 45-minute class. That is very, very popular, okay? And it's almost something that you could do in that room back there, okay? You could do that. Okay, now, here's the stretch care. One of our personal trainers, Ernie's there on the massage table, and she actually stretches him. So how did that feel? Yeah, it feels really good, especially if you can do that regularly. Okay, it's very good. You are connected from head to toe with fascia. And if you don't know what fascia is, if you've seen chicken, like if you see it in the store, it's covered with that white film. That's fascia. You're covered from head to toe with that. As a baby, if you see a baby and you take their legs and you can bend their legs all the way up, it's so malleable. You could do that. But as you get older, like I was just having you do today, you put your hands behind your back. How did that feel? Yeah, I mean, it wasn't very comfortable. You start losing that flexibility. You have to make sure you keep that stretched out and flexible. or else you're going to start getting pain. When you get out of bed in the morning, you move extra slow. How many of you, your ankles, everything, just it moves slower. You got to stretch. So that's something that's very, very important. Okay, so here's my information. If you want to get a hold of me or talk to me about anything we're doing over there, I will be willing to help you if you want to do something here. Tell you what we've done. I think health fairs is another thing that we did that got so many people in the door that were outside in the community. And if you're interested in learning how to do that, please contact me because we can get that set up for you or help you set that up out here for like an outreach event. Okay? Well, thank you very much. And now, if you have any questions, I'll have Ernie and my mom come back up and we can just answer some of the questions that you may have. Okay? Thank you.
Have a question, please raise your hand high. I'll bring you the mic and they'll be here to answer. Yes.
When it comes to choices or free will, as far as lifestyle is concerned, especially when it has to do with a good friend or a family member, how do you break through?
You know what? Ernie teaches a health and wellness coaching class, or actually, it's a whole certification. There are so many questions. It's different now than it used to be. Like, let's say I'm pescatarian too. I eat fish. I'm not a total vegetarian, so I'm pescatarian. But for someone who is not, today, they're not going to say, you have to be this, you have to be that. It's a totally different style of questioning. So, Ernie, you want to come and say some of the things that you do? It's more, you have to find out where they're at.
Yeah, with health coaching, there's a difference between a health coach and an expert and an educator, all right? We were trained as experts in lifestyle medicine, preventive care. So as an expert, we can do an assessment, we can make a recommendation. We call it a nutrition plan, right? Or we call it an exercise prescription, or we call it a stress management plan, or a quit smoking plan. That's how we were trained initially. But then since health coaching has come on board into the healthcare field, it's a totally different approach. Health experts basically prescribe and tell you what to do. I'm the expert. I know what's good for you, right? Health educators, they try to educate you and try to give you, show you all the studies, like, here's what cancer does to you, it causes all these things. And then we're trying to sort of persuade you and cajole you into doing the right thing. But we know that doesn't work either fully. I mean, how many years have smokers known? Every smoker I know knows that it causes cancer, and yet they still smoke, right? So now health coaching comes along, and it says, okay, I am not the one telling you what to do. I'm a guide, I'm a support, but then I have to ask you, okay, what is important to you? What do you want to do? Instead of me telling you what to do, and you'd be surprised, I've had smokers come in, and they've been referred by their doctor to quit smoking because they need to. Okay, that's good. But then when I start talking to them, smoking is just sort of a side thing, but they're really dealing with stress, or they're dealing with something else. So then I will actually focus on that first, because smoking is not really the main issue. That's health-wise it is, but really it's the stress. So health coaching is more about, it's what we call client or patient-centered. It's not centered on me and what I think you should do. So that's what we do. And then we are basically, in a nutshell, trying to increase what we call intrinsic motivation. You know intrinsic motivation versus extrinsic motivation? Extrinsic motivation is, I'm doing it because, I told her what to do, or my doctor said I had to do it. That will work for a while, but it's not long term. To make it long term, it has to become intrinsically motivated. So as a health coach, my job is to try to cultivate and empower the person to then become intrinsically motivated to make those changes. And once I can do that, then it's my job is easy. So that's in a nutshell how you would, to answer your question, would break through. And I have to find that. That's the thing. I have to be a detective, though, to figure that all out. It's usually not so obvious.
As a medical doctor, I'll tell them, you keep doing this, you're going to die. No. Okay. No. I lie. That's not the approach, okay? I line, I line up what the disadvantages are. You want to take your medicines every day, you take this drug every day, that's up to you. But I line up the disadvantages and what it will do to their body. And then they have a choice. Like Ernie said, it is their choice. You want to take this medicine every day, 3 times a day? That's up to you. Keep doing what you're doing. But if you stop it and you do this instead of that, you're going to get better. You're going to enjoy life more. So what is your choice?
Well,
And then you pray for this person.
Well, when it comes to family, like, say, for example, a sibling who drinks, and you know, that's their free will to choose. And we can see, you know, the adverse effect it's having on them, physically, mentally, spiritually, and they're going down. So, and this is their free will. You know, this is their choice. My uncle in Hawaii, on my Hawaiian side, he smoked. And he was told, you know, he's going to die. And he refused to give up his lifestyle. And he smoked himself to death. Now, how do you break through, you know, someone's free will to choose to continue to compulsively do it until they die?
You know, my first thing I would say to that is find a non-family member. Because family, I've been working on my mom for years. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, family members, you know, it's just a different beast. It's better to find somebody who's not a family member, because I can tell somebody, not a family member, and work with somebody, and then their spouse or their friend or their cousin or sister or sibling or whatever will say, I've been telling that for years, and they didn't change. Well, it's because they're a family member. So it's always different. So I would say first, A, find somebody who's not a family member to work with that person, but then B, like we were saying, you know, my mom was talking about the pros and cons. That's a strategy in health coaching we call decisional balance making, where you have the patient or the client or your, you know, like this person you were talking about, your uncle, list out, okay, what are all the reasons why you like to smoke? Oh, it's relaxing, it's stress, I like the flavor, I mean, there are people who actually like the smoke, all right? List out all the things that they like about it. And then, instead of you or me or somebody else telling them all the bad things about it, you ask them, well, so what are the things you don't like about it? Well, okay, yeah, you know, I mean, they know. You know, it makes my teeth yellow, and it makes me cough in the morning, and my breath smells, and my clothes stink. They know that, but they're sort of in denial. Well, you ask them that, they will listen out. I don't need to tell them that. So you listen out, and then you say, okay, these are the good things you like about smoking, or these are the benefits, which sounds sort of, you know, weird, right? Here are the benefits of smoking. So are there things that you could do to get those same benefits, but not from smoking? Because I can see all the things that you don't like about it. So what if there was a way that you could get all those benefits without all the negatives? See, again, I'm not telling them to quit. I'm just saying, hey, have you thought about that? And that's, you know, and it's going to take some time. I mean, if they're a diehard smoker, I've worked with people smoking 2 packs a day, 50 years. I mean, a long time. It's not going to just take a couple of sessions. It's going to take a lot of questioning and having them do some self-introspection. But you'd be amazed how if you ask the right questions, you can get them to be really honest with themselves. They want to change. They just are either in denial or they don't know how. So you show them that there is a way. Like I get the question when I do quit smoking classes, day 1, first class, guess what's the number one question I always get asked from the patients in that room, in that class? What do you think is the first question they'll ask me as the teacher, as the instructor? Have I smoked? Have I ever smoked before? And I'll tell them the story, yeah, when I was 10, my mom doesn't know this, but when I was 10, I found a pack of cigarettes in their car, and no, I'm just kidding. No, there was no pack of cigarettes in their car. I took a piece of paper up, rolled it up, lit the end, and took a drag. And it was terrible. It was like nasty. Like, why do people smoke? This is terrible. So that's my one experience of smoking. But I tell them, look, I'm honest with them. I said, you know, I don't smoke. I've never smoked. I don't plan to smoke. But why are you here? Well, to learn how not to smoke. I said, well, I'm an expert at that. I'm an expert because guess what? Smokers, we still get stressed. Non-smokers still here. Non-smokers still get stressed, right? We still get stressed. We still get bored. We still get, you know, angry. We still get all these things that they might be smoking for, but we don't smoke. We don't use nicotine. So how does a non-smoker deal with life? Because they're using the cigarette to deal with life. So that's what I show them. I don't show them, I can play a smoker now. I've been working with smokers for 30 years. I could pretend and really be I can act smoker, like a smoker, but that's what you have to show them, and you got to show them hope that, hey, there is a way to achieve all the benefits that they're getting from cigarette without all the negatives. So, but I would do it from a non-family member. It's just easier.
On a more serious note, smoking, well, on a spiritual, smoking is like sin. God has told us to separate ourselves from our sin, provided all the way for us to escape sin and sinning. What do? We kept sinning, keep sinning. At the end, can God save us? No. That's our choice. We will have to be burning on the other side or enjoying the glories of heaven. Even God cannot save those who do not want to save themselves. So it is heartbreaking, but that is the truth of the matter if they do not want to be helped. Because that has an addictive property also. They can't help it themselves.
With our food quality declining in the U.S., how do we source our food properly?
With our food
Go ahead. With our food quality declining in the United States, how do we source our food properly?
Okay, so I got to tell you something. I have a son who's in Argentina right now. He's doing the ACA program, the Adventist Colleges Abroad. And, he's 21. And after the first week he was there, he told me, he said, Mom, my face, I don't have any pimples at all on my face. And I've been here for a week. I mean, their food, they grow their own food. There's no chemicals or whatever in it. In the United States, it is definitely harder. And the thing is, I would love to tell everyone, you need to buy organic and non-GMO and all that. And it's easy for me to say, but I know it's expensive, okay? So, I mean, right now, I know I have friends who grow their own food. There's co-ops. I know we have a garden club at Loma Linda. I mean, there's all different things. And there's Azure Standard. They buy in bulk, non-organic non-GMO and organic foods. You just have to start looking and seeing where you can get things that are, non-GMO and non-GMO and organic as much as possible, but also as unprocessed as possible. I mean, if you see the nutrition as far as the blue zones, and my mom now, when I watched the way she cooked before and the way she cooks now, it's very simple. It's a lot of beans. I mean, beans for breakfast, beans for lunch, beans for a lot of beans, whole grains, fresh fruits and vegetables. It's just very simple. So that's one way that you might want to go.
I do have a question, especially about the beans. What is your practical advice to get rid of the after effect of beans?
I have a group of ladies that I work out with on Tuesday and Thursday mornings. And one lady, she was saying, we asked her that question too. She soaks her beans for anywhere from a day to 2 days. And that removes like the gas that you get from beans. But
Dr. Kelly taught us that his wife, who is the nutritionist, said, you soak the beans and then drain it and then freeze it for 24 hours. So I think to add to that, you have to freeze it. And then after 24 hours, you can use it and try. So maybe, something happens during that time. So soak it 24 hours, freeze it the next 24 hours, and then you can use it.
Several years ago, I don't know what kind of progress Monsanto is making. And they were really making some head strides several years ago. In Hawaii, they have a problem with Monsanto, And, Hawaii being a blue state, and, as far as government, they're controlling the media over there totally. Because for us to go there and to cite facts, they don't want to hear it. Because, all this propaganda over the years. They're so brainwashed. Monsanto is moving in and they're polluting the water in Hawaii. And they're affecting the children. So I don't know where Monsanto is right now as far as controlling the food. This is their objective, to control the world, right?
Yeah, that's
eventually.
big
So
pharma.
where are they at this point in time?
I mean, they still do a lot of the GMO seeds. I know they control a lot of the GMO seeds and the glyphosate. What they do to, what is it? The chemicals. So they kills the bugs.
The
and all that kind of
pesticides.
stuff. Yes, pesticides. Thank you. They still, it's Roundup. It's still out there. I know that's a really big problem, and there's nothing much we can do about it in the United States. So, I mean, even when I go to Europe and eat food there, it's totally different than over here. And you can tell the difference easily. But yeah, I mean, learn to garden if you can.
Dr. Loida, I would like you to give us a little bit more insight on your journey with inflammation, because you told us about the CRP, C-reactive protein, and that's a big marker for inflammation. So if we cannot do the immersion program like you did, what are practical steps that we here can leave today, go home and implement to decrease inflammation in our body, which now they've been shown as a root cause of heart disease, as a root cause of diabetes? We can go on, but can you address that, ma'am?
Well, like I told you, we were not exercising there. All we did was, in between lectures, we would be walking, and that's a church complex like this. Because it was November, it was cold outside, so we were exercising. So it was not really mainly exercise that removed the inflammation. And we were listening to lectures, we were doing hydrotherapy. That's another thing that we were doing there. Every day we would have, one of us would be scheduled for, there were only 12 participants, so they could concentrate on us. One of us would be having whole body massage, for one day. The next day we would be having foot, what do you call this? Foot bath. The next day we will have a Russian bath. The next day we will have contrast bath. And then the next day they will practice on us to put poultices on our body, So we learn how to do poultices. And, but the main thing really is the diet. The nutritionist, who is Mrs. Kelly, the wife of the director there, made sure that she did not use anything that was highly processed and no additives. And she used a lot of seasoning like cumin, curry, all of these little things that maybe we're not used to having. And those are very highly, like turmeric. Turmeric is like ginger, very anti-inflammatory. So for breakfast, I drink 1 mug of hot water. I put ginger powder, or you can use fresh ginger, like about this big. And then you put a little bit, one teaspoon or 1 tablespoon, depending on the taste, of fresh squeezed lemon. And you put 1 teaspoon of turmeric and a dash of black pepper. Mix that, and you put honey if you want it. I use honey for sugar. I don't use the other things, just honey. And now be careful with honey, because some of the honey that you get commercially are watered down, and then they put sugar in the instead of, so be careful. They say raw honey is better, so you read up on that, okay? So, and then you drink that every morning. Oh, it's beautiful, beautiful. That is anti-inflammatory in itself. Turmeric is a very good anti-inflammatory. So, because that will remove your joint pains, that will remove your back pain, and that is such a help to me, because I play pickleball. When I play pickleball, I have a good sleep. No joint pains. Maybe tired, but no joint pains. Praise God for that.
I have just one more thing to say about that one is sugar. Decrease any type of just processed white sugar. If you decrease that and also white flour, I can almost guarantee you're going to feel a difference. So I play a little bit too much pickleball, and I have a little bit of a pickleball elbow, like tennis elbow. I can tell if I eat dessert one day, the next day, my elbow is going to be sore. If I lay off the sugar and the processed carbohydrates, I'm like, oh, that's not good, so I play more. But, but those two things, that helps. That helps quite a bit.
No, I also listened to the video this afternoon before the program began. But there were a number of things your mom participated in, and so I was trying to figure out how did they determine which one of those factors decreased the inflammation, because there was the bath, there was the walking, there was the exercise, there was the food. How did they determine whether this was the specific factor that decreased?
Like I said, when I went for that immersion program, I think for myself the diet worked. The diet was effective in decreasing the inflammation of my body. Also, your CRP, cardiac, will go up if you are under stress. Okay, you don't have to have inflammation in your body, but your CRP might go up with stress also. So, but I knew that at that time, the stress factor in my life was not too much, because everything that was I did not like just happened in the past already, and I have lived through that with a lot of prayer and a lot of asking God to help me. But I think that it was in what I was eating, and also right after that I cut out all my canned foods, my vegetarian processed food, everything. And I went into fresh vegetables, fruit. In the morning, I would have just fresh fruit, maybe a big bowl, and maybe I'll cook oatmeal or something like that. But I don't use milk either, except the vegetable milk, not milk, okay? And no sugar, white, sometimes even brown. I shy away, but I use honey, okay? It's difficult. So what you do is you eliminate. You do it by elimination and see what helps. But I think, for my own experience, the diet change has made a big difference in my life.
Conversion therapy came to Village SDA Church. I know a lot of Adventists will go to Weimar or New Start in California. Is it Black Canyon? And how would something like that work in here? Like, could we bring that to Chandler? And I've got to ask, does it cost?
Find out from Weimar whether they do that, because if not, take down the name of Dr. John Kelly. You have you known about him? He is in Michigan right now, okay? But he travels around. A 10-day session of that is $1,000 per member, and they only accept like 12 at a time for the program, because they concentrate on you. But it's worth $1,000. It's worth more than $1,000. I'm telling you. So if you contact John Kelly, he might come out here, because he had done that almost yearly at a very close church to my hometown, and I have helped. In the meantime, also, all the registrants for that immersion program, you have a conference with the doctor every day, and to discuss your problems, and then you have a spiritual counselor also to work with your medical counselor. So it's a very comprehensive program, and if you can do it in your church, that will be very good.
I think I have 1,000 questions, but I have to settle for just this last question. Several years ago, I've been following this study as far as American, big ag in this country, big ag, biotech. Okay, now the study, they analyzed produce, coming from the markets. All this, across the nation. And what they found was very interesting, that they didn't wasn't able to determine how many years, in time, whereas the nutrition in produce, fruits, and vegetables will amount to nothing, zero. And whatever we buy from the chain supermarkets will amount to only fiber. I mean, that was a prediction. That was several years ago. So where are we now at this point in time? Like Seventh-day Adventists, they're vegans. They depend on produce. Now, if produce not going to have any nutritional value, isn't that going to increase health disorders over time? It'll only get worse.
I mean, at this time, we can only work with what resources we have. So, I mean, fruits and vegetables are still going to be better off than doing processed food. We have to just work with what we have. But you're right. The soil is not nutritious anymore. It's been overworked. Is not like they're saying magnesium is not found in what it's supposed to be in. So we supplement. So I supplement, and I know my mom does, and Ernie does. We supplement on the side because we do know that. And not everyone is going to have a perfect diet. There's no way. I mean, if you're busy and we don't cook, every single meal perfectly. So we all do supplement. So yeah, you just have to work with what you have. That's a hard question.
And in this country, obesity. I mean, we rate really high up there compared to the rest of the world. Like you cited Europe. And lifestyle has a lot to do with it too. Propaganda, brainwashing, what we're subjected to in this country. All the chemicals that's in the ground. There's a lot of alternatives that are really not taken into consideration, and that's the obstacle we face as Americans today.
That's why I love it in Japan. In Japan. In Japan, we kept walking. When I came home, I weighed myself. I lost 5 pounds, and we were there only 10 days. So, I love it. I just asked them, can we take a taxi? Because every day I think we average like 3 to 4 miles a day. That's too much, and it's up and down, up and down. There is no level road or level ground in Japan. Everything is either going up or down. So. But that's healthy. That's healthy.
Yeah. I do have a question, and I have been experimenting with vegetarian or vegan as opposed to non-vegan. But one of the things that has happened to me, I struggle with obesity. And there was one time when I did a plant-based diet for a couple months, and then I did a no-carb diet, which means that it was having animal protein, fish, and all of that. I noticed that I lost weight tremendously, as opposed to when I stayed on beans and rice. I gained so much body mass that I would rather. So can you explain to me the science behind that? Okay, so beans and rice have a lot of carbohydrates. Okay, that's the thing. So you have to really watch your portion sizes with that. Also, protein, yes. If you eat more protein than carbohydrates, you probably will have less calories or lose weight. But the biggest thing that I find when I'm working with people, and I don't know about you, but it's the carbohydrate intake. Not only beans and rice. If you see what is a cup of rice is, or half a cup of rice is how many carbohydrates? It's a lot. It's almost 100, carbohydrates or something like that. But you just have to really watch your carbohydrates. You can do the vegetarian diet, but the portion sizes are going to be different. I mean, but if you're looking at vegetables, that's very low in calories. So like salads and that sort of thing, but also fruit. But beans and rice, very high in carbohydrates. So you just have to really watch that. So I did, a number of us decided to really watch our carbohydrates. We all lost weight when we watched the carbohydrates, and a lot of them were vegans. Okay, so
they didn't have any animal protein, and they did not like to eat the fake veggie meat either. So they just had to watch it, because if you know how, okay, we had pasta in there today, we had spaghetti. When whoever served me the spaghetti, it was just about this much, that's the serving size. Would you eat that normally? When you go to Old Spaghetti Factory or Olive Garden, you have the unlimited whatever. You eat way more carbohydrates than you should. And then, of course, the bread, you're eating a lot. So if you sat down and you added all that up, you're probably getting 300 to 400 in one meal or something. So that's why. So you just need to make sure you look at that. But also, gut health now is very, very important. I have a friend who's just an expert in that. I think you should invite Gigi over here to speak. She does this thing on gut health that's amazing, and it's all about immunity, what you're eating, and she does not say you have to be vegetarian or vegan. I know she's not. Everyone is different. So Ernie and I, we've taken the tests for that. And we know, now we know what we have to, and she told us what we need to supplement, all because of our gut health. And so once you get the answers to that, it really makes a difference. And it really makes a difference.
In terms of supplements, how do you find the right source? Because there's so many out here, and so many people like, hey, you can use this or that. So how do you know which one is the right one for you?
We follow, Dr. Greger. Dr. Greger, he's a really good source that I listen to. He's been to Loma Linda and would speak there several times. There are lists of companies that you should look at to follow which one is good, which one is not, which one's non-GMO, So there is a list. I mean, if you follow Dr. Greger's,
He's Dr. Michael Greger
yes.
of NutritionFacts.com.
Yes, NutritionFacts. Yes,
Yep,
NutritionFacts.com. Follow that. I love that. Yeah, NutritionFacts.com, and they give you a newsletter all the time. He's really good. I like him.
He's going to be coming to Loma Linda at the end of October to speak there. So, and I'm sure they're going to live stream it. Unfortunately, I'll be in Florida for American College of Lifestyle Medicine. So and she'll be in Michigan, so we won't be there to see him, unfortunately, but he'll be in Loma Linda. I think they'll live stream it, so we can find it. I can get you the information, Dr. Trey. Just email me, and then that way you can show it here. But he's a very, very entertaining speaker. He shows everything based on research stuff, but in an easy to understand way. He doesn't try to talk over your head. Very good.
Now, when you're trying to do 2 meals a day, I've done it and failed. Well, how do you get the caloric count? Because that's been my problem, getting enough calories to sustain me, kind of catapult you toward the end of the day so you don't have that drop off. What is the best way, or how to, whether you want to give it in portions of macros or examples, what's the best way to be able to maintain a 2 meal a day and sustain your...
I think I'm the one to answer that, because these two eat 3 meals a day, right? Oh, you don't? Okay. I eat 2 meals a day if I'm at home, okay? Outside, God help me, Okay. But at home, of course, when I don't have any appointment during the morning, I do a lot of study, a lot of reading, and then before I get out of my bedroom, it's about 10 o'clock, okay? So about 11 o'clock, between 10 o'clock and 11, that's when I eat my breakfast, okay? And fruits, a lot of fruits, and sometimes I eat a kind of a brunch thing at that point. And then my next meal will be about 3 or 4 before I go for pickleball. Pickleball is 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock. So in between, if you can avoid not to snack, just water, okay? So that'll be good. And then occupy yourself so you're not thinking of food, okay? Because it's very difficult. If you're at home, you see everything there, snacks and everything, it's very difficult to control yourself. But Ellen White says 2 meals a day, yeah. And that gives your digestive system enough time to work and to empty and to for you to eliminate it. So it's not very taxing. Digestion is very taxing for the body.
But I do understand if you wake up early and are working all day and 2 meals a day doesn't cut it, because a lot of my clients, what I worked with before, they could not handle 2 meals a day. So what we would have to do is we would have to look at their meals, do 3, and maybe a small snack, but the meals can't be large. Because sometimes when I do 2, and that's it, and I'm awake from 5:30 to 11 at night, those 2 meals are huge. And then my calorie level is just too high. So I would rather, break it up into smaller, tiny meals throughout the day, so my energy level is up. Because I have to be up from 5:30, sometimes at Drayson Center until 10 at night, and I cannot tolerate just 2.
If you have to eat 3 meals a day, I would suggest also that the last one will be the lightest, because you're about to go to bed, and you can have a very heavy, very light at night.
So I don't know if you have addressed this already, but the concept of the balanced diet, is there such a phenomenon? Is there any true study that you must eat the different food groups?
Oh, I mean, as far as the food groups, yes, the basic food groups are out there. You have to have your protein, your macros, the protein, your fats, your carbohydrates, yes, all in different increments, for sure. There is a balance diet, and of course, your micronutrients, your vitamins, all the fruits and vegetables, and the different colors. They always try to say, eat the rainbow, eat all the different colors, because you have all the phytonutrients in there as well. Without the phytonutrients, all the rest of your macronutrients won't be absorbed as well. So you have to have the enzymes, the phytonutrients in the colors of the food. So yes, you do have to have a balanced diet. If you look at your plate and it's all tan, that's not a good thing. Like mashed potatoes, pasta, you want a wide variety. So Dr. Naval, she is a functional nutritionist. I highly recommend, if you are having issues, find a functional nutritionist in your area, because they will really look at gut health. So we are seeing this functional nutritionist, and she did tell me, you're eating too little. You have to eat more food, because I wasn't eating enough. And she goes, you have to eat more beans. She was telling me exactly what I had to eat, and I know I have to do that, but it's so hard to do it, So she said, you have to have more, green vegetables. You have to have more of this. So she tells you exactly what you have to have because of the test I took. So you need to have a baseline. So that's something that's really important.
I'll add to that too. I just had a meeting with her a couple of weeks ago. She's a very good friend of ours. She's a Filipina. She also does singing, so she can do a evening concert. She's a very good singer, and then she can do the health thing. But she said, and I totally agree with her, she said, we have the original diet in the Bible, right? And so we often will just base it off that. However, are we like Adam and Eve? No. Our DNA has mutated so much that the original diet doesn't work for everybody anymore. But that's the problem. We say, oh, it's in the Bible. This is what we should do. And then yet people still have problems. So what she does with this testing, and she does the gut biome testing. She also does a hair testing if you want that. And then there's a third one. What's the third? Oh, saliva one. So she usually starts off with a gut one that shows your whole microbiome. And then specifically, so we're all, we've all had mutations in civil. So for each of us, my recommendations are going to be different than hers, even though we're siblings. And so that's what I like. And she does do, this is like a commercial for her, but she does do online counseling. All her clients are all across the United States. You don't have to live in Loma Linda to see her. So, if you want to email me and get her information. She does have a website, actually. I think if you just go to Gigi Noval, NJEGENOVAL. If you go to her website, you can then fill out this form. It's for a free consult, and then from there you can go. But she's one of the best functional nutritionists I've ever seen. And like I said, she will base your recommendations off of you, not what some government or our church or whatever is saying. I think those are good, okay as general guidelines. But nowadays, she's all about personalized nutritional assessment. And that's the way, like personalized medicine, right? Dr. Tracy, everything's now sort of going in that direction. So I forgot, she told me how many generations it takes for your body to mutate, so many times. It just blew me away. I didn't even know that.
I have a question. Since you were talking about your gut health, do you think that maybe, like I have a grandson and he's autistic, and do you think that the gut health, might be linked to his autism? Because the only thing he wants to eat is meat and eggs. He will not eat no vegetables. He will not eat any fruit. He just craves it. He just wants the meat and the eggs. That's it.
So something that this functional nutritionist does too, when she does the testing, the results are very interesting, but she does a lot of DNA testing, and sometimes when someone's craving something, they have like what do they call it, like their deficiency or an inability to absorb a certain nutrient, like copper. She really does a lot on copper. So maybe if he gets tested and finds something out like that out, maybe they can figure out why, because maybe he's craving something like selenium or something that's in the meat and the eggs, and he's craving something in that he needs so much. So I that's what I do first. But yeah, it's interesting because it's also wrapped up in your DNA. So Gigi Noval, Jeje, and then Noval. She also addresses sleep issues, and that's a huge one. And sleep issues, energy, and also women going through menopause. Those are huge areas for her.
Two things. Number one, Dr. Medina's and Dr. Knowlton, I'm going to ask you, can you just send me all those names and I'll put it in our church. Second, not that I want to give Dr. St. Rose any more more work to do, but Dr. St. Rose, John St. Rose in our church, he's a naturopathic physician. He does do that. He does do the allergy testing for food. Like, I used to love pineapples and would eat it on a daily basis, but I found out pineapples don't love me as far as a physiologic standpoint. And in eliminating pineapples has made a world of difference. So he does do that also. So if you would like a resource here that you can kind of go to in person, Dr. John St. Rose does that here at Chandler.
He has answered some of my questions. I really like him also. So yes, I highly suggest him.
Just a quick, I know you might have talked about this in terms of menopause. Is there any suggestion, recommendation for that thing? Because I know even for a women ministry, I don't think we address this enough, because being Christian, we forget the physical, the psychological, the hormonal things that happen during that. Any suggestion when it comes on to our nutritional health?
Menopause is one of those things that Dr. Noval and we talked about, because a lot of my friends, everyone's going through that time right now, and it also is linked to a lot of depression, and it's also linked to a lot of fatigue, aches. There's a lot of things but like I said, I would get a base test on gut health. I would do that test because you can see a lot of what's missing. Even like H. pylori, that's something, a bacteria that's in your system that causes ulcers and all kinds of gut issues. But you will see a lot of things. You just need to get a baseline for that, because it is all about gut health when it comes to menopause and balancing your hormones, and that all is going to be done when you take those tests. I would say take it.
Okay, thank you, everyone. We're going to wrap this up, but before we do, does anybody have their blue half sheet from this morning? Yes, thank you. Okay, would like to remind, and I'm cutting up here so everybody online can see this, it's going to be a session by Dr. Ernie Medina, the most important health test you won't get prescribed. Join our Zoom session to find out why VO2 max testing is so important and how to do it. As far as for our Zoom, oh my goodness, we can actually put it on our website for those of you online who did not get the handout. So that's number one. Number two, a reminder about the Made to Move. Even though North American Division is not doing that, we still challenge everyone here, everyone online, to go ahead and walk a 5K, virtual 5K, which is about 3.11 miles. After that, as far as your Chandler family, we would like you to go ahead and send me a screenshot. The earliest and fastest times that I receive via email will be eligible for one of the two $50 gift cards to Top Golf. Email address, the number 7, the letter T, the letter H, letter D-A-Y, healthymd@gmail.com. I'll say it all one together. 7th day healthymd@gmail.com, with the 7th being the number 7 and the letters TH. Anyone else have any announcements for the rest of the weekend? Did I miss anything, anybody? We talked about tomorrow morning, and this is again Zoom. We talked about the Made to Move 5K tomorrow. Otherwise, let's go ahead and stand. I would like us to do something, so make sure you have somebody next to you or near you that you can touch. We're going to, how many remember the Seventh-day Adventist song, tradition song, Side by Side? We don't have a musician, but we're going to do it a cappella. We'll go ahead and get the words up, and then we'll pray, and you may be dismissed. Okay. Side by side we stand, awaiting God's command, worshiping the saving King, living by His grace and moving out in faith. Jesus Himself will see us through. I'll meet you in heaven, we'll join hands together. Meet me at the Savior's side. I'll meet you in heaven, we'll sing songs together. Brothers and sisters, I'll be there. Soldiers all are we? Soldiers all are we, to go where Jesus leads, to fight the foe and we will overcome. Heaven is our goal, to save every soul. Pray that we all will be there. Meet me in heaven, we'll join hands together. Meet me at the Savior's side. I'll meet you in heaven, we'll sing songs together. Brothers and sisters, I'll be there. Pray. Pray that we all will be there. Pastor Claudio, will you close us out, sir? Thank you.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we so thank you because we are here together, and we strongly believe that your whole angels is here with us. Please, dear Lord, stay with us. We are closed the Sabbath. We are here, and after the speech, after everything that we learn, we ask you to help us to put everything in practice. Please, dear Lord, stay with every family represented here. We ask in Jesus' name, amen.